The first time FewoWorld was ever brought up was the artifact drop. And then after that, it was just thinking on how can this world be expanded. I am so like hungry to explore the world more because I was trapped in this abusive household for so long. I'm free now. Let's explore everything. And here we are now, exploring it.
Hello everyone, GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. This is usually our weekly recap episode, but we are doing something different today because we have a very special guest who has a drop launching in 2 days at the date we are airing this. And I wanted to make sure we were able to get this conversation out before that drop happened so everyone was aware of it. And my very special guest today is Victor FEWOCiOUS, the artist known best as FEWOCiOUS. I was so excited to have this conversation. I've been a really big fan of FEWOCiOUS's work since I first heard about him in the Christie's drop he did. You have probably heard about him as well. If you haven't, FEWOCiOUS is one of the most, I almost want to say, prolific creators in the NFT space today. One of the earliest NFT artists to really gain traction. He's been in this space since early 2020. And his story is incredible. FEWOCiOUS is 19 years old and has already had work at both Sotheby's and Christie's. He's the youngest person to ever have a Sotheby's show. He has collabed with Artifact to do a shoe drop that raised $3 million in 7 minutes. And he is now launching the next phase of his career, which is FewoWorld. So we talk about what this next phase entails, what it looks like, the drop that's happening this coming Sunday, April 3rd, and really about Fewo's story. We talk about his artistic process and his upbringing and so many things. I just enjoyed this conversation so much. I think he is one of the just most brilliant and compelling people really in the space today. I'm like almost afraid I like fangirled too hard during this interview. So y'all can tell me if I did, but I'm really excited for you to listen to this. I think you will enjoy it. And next week we'll be back with our regularly scheduled weekly recap episodes. But for now, we have a word from our sponsor and then my conversation with Victor FEWOCiOUS.
RARIBLE is the NFT platform that's leading the charge into the multi-chain universe ahead of us. Available on Flow, Tezos, Polygon, and of course Ethereum, RARIBLE is the perfect place for NFT newcomers, profile picture collectors, and experienced NFT traders. RARIBLE has a variety of NFT features that set it apart from other NFT marketplaces. They have a native messaging function allowing you to DM your friends or haggle with sellers. They also have a mobile app on iOS and Android with a built-in NFT portfolio tracker tool so you can easily check the value of your digital art portfolio. RARIBLE is built on the RARIBLE protocol, a multi-purpose, open source, and community-governed NFT protocol that helps build products and services across the NFT ecosystem, including white label marketplaces tailored to specific NFT communities. So go to rarible.com and start discovering and trading NFTs, putting in floor bids to join PFP communities, and DM with some brand new internet friends. It's increasingly obvious that everything will become tokenized, and NFT marketplaces needs robust financial reporting, performance analysis, and the peace of mind that they are compliance ready. GILDED NFT OPS is a one-stop financial reporting solution for growing NFT platforms. GILDED has developed marketplace-specific modules to track the financial performance of NFT creators, including revenue tracking, collection metrics, royalty payments, and revenue share. Customers of NFT OPS gain access to full-featured accounting tools and powerful APIs for custom integrations that simplify operations and produce tax-ready data. So no wonder why so many top brands like CoinMarketCap, Gitcoin, Nifty's, and POAP trust GILDED to automate complex reporting workflows. Visit gilded.finance/bankless to learn more.
Hello, everyone. A huge welcome to Victor FEWOCiOUS, the artist best known as FEWOCiOUS, one of the most talented artists, I'll say, in the world right now, certainly in the digital art space. One of the most famous and known for very good reason. FEWOCiOUS was early to the NFT space and is just a tremendous, prolific creator. Hope you don't feel like I'm overhyping you. I truly believe this. I absolutely love your work, FEWOCiOUS. So I'm not saying this out of any place, but my genuine heart. And really excited to talk about what you have going on right now. You've made a pretty big announcement about what the next phase in your work life looks like, and we are going to dive all into that and what FewoWorld is. But let's start with just like, hello, give folks your background if there's somebody here who doesn't know your story.
Wow, what an introduction. Hello, hi to you, and hi everyone listening. I'm FEWOCiOUS. I grew up in Las Vegas, and I've always loved to draw and doodle on random things, draw on my math homework because I don't really understand math. And I would draw because I thought it looked cool. I didn't really understand what art meant or that art was like a craft and a skill. I was like, oh, I drew a dinosaur on a skateboard on fire. It looks cool. And then I would draw more and more. And as I got older, I didn't really have that many friends. And then I would be sitting at my lunch table and be like, well, I feel sad. So I would just draw sad, like literally write sad over my dinosaur on a skateboard on fire. And then I'd be like, oh, I wish I had some friends. And then I would look up and see like a group of friends sitting together, and I would draw them just because I kind of envied that. And then they would be the word sad next to a group of friends. Then I'd look at that and be like, whoa, this is how I feel. This is weird. I made something that's how I feel. What is that? And then got older, had access to the internet. Learn about art. Whoa, art is pictures of feelings? I've been making art this whole time? I want to keep making that. Oh, I can learn about it? And then I'm Googling like anatomy book PDFs and learning about how to draw eyes realistically. But then I'm like, that's boring. Let's make you look crazy. So that's me.
So that's amazing. And this was actually a question I had for you, and we're getting to it early, which is, do you have any formal artistic training?
No. The last art class I was in was like 3rd grade, where they like make you be in art class for like an hour.
Yeah.
And I remember the teacher being like, you need to draw this painting with this color. It was like dark blue. And I was like, why? I don't want to use dark blue. I want to use red and green and all of the colors. Why would I limit myself? And she
Also,
yelled at me.
how bizarre to be like an art teacher being like, very specific structures and correct answers here in this art class. Like
Exactly. So after that, in 3rd grade, I banned art school for myself and would just like learn from books.
And how old were you when you first started drawing? You said you were really young and then had this evolution.
Yeah, I'd say like 5 I would draw, but I didn't know I was drawing. I'd say 14 is when I really was like, I'm drawing.
And when did you have this realization, sort of a twofold realization? One, that like you were good at this, and 2, that it could be a career.
Ooh. That I'm good at it? Well, I mean, I would be drawing in class and kids would walk by and grab my notebook and then like to make fun of me, but then they would be like, wait, this is cool. And I'd be like, whoa, popular kid that I want to be friends with, you think whoa, what do you mean it's cool? And then they would give it back and be like, you should keep drawing. And then kids at school would just like walk up to me and be like, oh, I see you always carrying that book, can I see it? And it kind of became a thing that everyone wanted to see my sketchbook. So that was a hint. And then the career aspect of that, I was like 14 and I was on Twitter and I saw some artists post that they got their first apartment off of print money, like selling prints of their art. And I was like, whoa, you don't need to just sell like fine art paintings in big galleries to be able to afford a living off being an artist. So that's when I got that mindset.
So I think I have a sense of the answer of this from listening to other interviews with you, but I don't know if the whole audience would know. In terms of adults in your life, family members, teachers at school, did you have anybody else telling you, hey, this is a career, hey, you can go be an artist, or supporting that dream?
Once I started getting the idea of I want to be an artist, I don't want to do anything else, my family did not. They hated that idea. And I would talk about all my ideas of like, but I'm not going to just like rush into it. Like I'm going to first try to make enough money off clothes or try to do this, try to do that. And my core family, like my grandma would be like, that's not safe. Why would you do that? Go be a doctor, go be a lawyer. And it was kind of insulting to her. Like, how dare you like waste my time raising you and then go fail at something. And after I expressed how serious I was, my family kind of would just bash my art and say, well, it's too scary. You really want to be an artist? Well, your art looks scary. Look at Van Gogh. It's beautiful landscapes. What are you making? It's scary people. Their eyes look scary and they're blue. No one wants to see blue people on their wall at home. And, you know, I'd look at other art and they'd be like, well, you're kind of right. I feel bad now. So it became this secret that I would hide making my art and just wouldn't talk about it. I'd never had people in my life supporting me except a couple kids at school, but then they would like not really care that much. They'd just be kind of nice.
So what's so amazing about that is like, you didn't stop, you just did it, right? You didn't let those voices impact what you kind of knew in your heart to be true. And I guess that leads me to a couple questions. One, what was that? Was that like an internal voice that was like, you can do this, like it's gonna work out, that kept you pushing on despite the fact that in some ways like your biggest influences were telling you otherwise?
Mm-hmm. It was looking at my family and seeing my grandma was a great artist. I'm gonna call her a drawer. My mom and dad both would win like art competitions when they were like little kids, and my mom won like a competition where she got to paint like a mural at her school. And then they would always tell me about it, like brag about it as I was growing up. But then I would look at them as adults and they never cared about art. They stopped talking about it. They bragged about it as a past thing, but to actually pursue being an artist is a funny thing. And they'd make fun of people trying to be artists. And I thought it was sad. And I didn't want to end up like my family, like lose the magic and just do the same thing every day and just think that creating something is a crazy thing. So I think that was it. Just like not wanting to be like them.
I'm going to ask something, and if it feels like it's too personal, we can always cut it out.
Nothing is too personal.
Okay. Well, and that's, I think, why so many people, of course, resonate with your art is just your complete vulnerability. Like, do you think there was envy there? Do you think you had your parents didn't make that choice and on some level were jealous and afraid that you were going to go make a different choice and invalidate the choices they made?
I feel they were scared that I would think I'm so right. Like, I don't think it was out of like hatred. I think they really love me, but I think it was they didn't understand. And I think it was they didn't want to see me fail and for me to be so confident in this thing and just get like pushed down to earth of like, you're wrong. I don't know. I think it was just lots of misunderstandings that unfortunately we don't talk anymore. But I don't know.
Do they know about your artwork? I mean, and I'll put this into perspective for folks. I mean, you've sold art. What's the not to that it shouldn't all come down to monetary value, but you know, I know your artifact drop, for example, sold out, I think $3 million in 7 minutes. Like,
yeah,
you, in terms of what, you know, truly, I think probably one of the most successful living artists to date. You're in a very, very rare crowd of artists who are able to command that kind of a monetary value on their work. So wildly successful. And you're 19?
Yes.
Does your family know?
I'm aware that they know because a New York Times article came out about me, where I kind of talked about how hard my family was really abusive, and like the extents to how mean they were about my art were further than I kind of described. Like they would threaten to rip up my art and just call me mean names for making art. And so I talked about that in the New York Times article very like honestly and open, and I got a text from my uncle saying, hey, we see what you're doing. Also, they didn't know that I'm transgender. So they like found out about that at the same time.
In the New York Times?
Yeah. In the New York Times, they found out I'm transgender. And then they found out that like I'm just being very open about how abusive they are. And they were like, first of all, we see that you're transgender. Second of all, we're mad at you because we're so embarrassed that you just said all this. How dare you say like all these things we said to you? We love you.
How dare you speak honestly about what was happening in the household we created? Yeah.
They were like trying to gaslight me saying like we didn't do that. And I'm like, What? Yes, you did. You can't like say that years of my life didn't exist. And then I just blocked his number because I'm like, I don't want to deal with, I don't have the energy right now. So I just blocked him, and that's the last that we talked to each other.
Would you describe yourself as spiritual? Do you believe in a higher power?
I feel like there's something. I don't know what it is, but I'd like to believe that there's something out there. And when I get nervous or scared, I like to like, this might sound silly, but I have all these art books like Basquiat, Warhol, and sometimes it'll be like 3 a.m. painting, and I'm like, yo, I feel like they're giving me like the energy, like
you're
the
like,
good painter
I feel
energy.
Basquiat like pumping through me, and we are
I
in this
swear.
club together. I love that. Well, it's that feeling like I'm not alone. Like there have been artists throughout history who have gone through something that's similar to what I'm going through. Is that part of what it is for you?
Yeah, it was after Sotheby's or before Sotheby's where I was just in my room crying, and I felt so much pressure and fear because I don't know, like I went from a kid in my bedroom making stuff that was only for me and I would post it, but obviously everyone has the dream of becoming an artist that everyone sees, but I thought it would happen, but I also didn't think it would happen.
Totally. Well, there's that abstract confidence, and then there's the looking at your life being like, how could this really happen? I didn't mean to continue.
And I was like, oh, I have Sotheby's next month. I'm so young. I know that when I'm older, like what I make now won't be as good, and I'm just so nervous, and everyone is talking about markets. What if this one doesn't sell as much as the last one? I don't know. And then I was like, damn, how did Basquiat feel? Like he was on a other like level, like beyond, like how did he feel when he got the first gallery sale? I can't even imagine. Everyone talks about him like he's a legend, which he is, but how did he feel like when he made that first big sale? Who was there for him? What did he talk about? Yeah, you see his cool art, but like, it's kind of scary to put your feelings out there in front of so many people like that.
I love that. And, you know, the start of this question was if you're spiritual, and part of that was coming from a place of like, when you've had these really dark moments in your life, what is that thing that helps you get through? Art being one of them, seemingly like belief in your own art. But it's almost like your higher power are these like legends that came before that you like turn to in those dark moments, which is like a beautiful thing.
That's so true. Like with NFTs, I view it as this really cool extension. Like, damn, everyone else like died before they got to see this. And it's like, what would these super creative, awesome people do with this technology? It's just an extension of the canvas, I feel like, I don't know. When I added sound to my first NFT, at first I was like, I don't want to just slap music on my artwork. And then I was like, but what if it was, what does a painting sound like? Oh.
You're like, new level unlocked, new art level unlocked. This is something I wanted to ask you about, and I think we're getting to it all right up front, which is kind of a beautiful thing for a podcast. People will be on the edge of their seat the whole time. Like, you're so young, you've had so much success. You also come from an abusive background. Like you come from a dark place, like the dramatic shift of going from an abusive household, very controlled, you know, a minor, so you have no control over your own money, to freedom, way more money than you probably could have imagined, fame. Like, how are you doing today? How is your mental health?
I feel so happy and healthy, and I'm not saying happy in like a ultra high woohoo way. Like I feel like a good meal, like healthy. Like I don't know how to explain
I love
it.
talking to you. It perfectly describes it. You're contented, you're satisfied, you're full but not overly full. Like you know, it feels pleasant. Oh my God, I totally get that analogy. Hopefully others get that analogy as well. Okay, let's maybe talk a little bit about your creative process, which you started to get into, and that can lead us into FewoWorld, which is you've been sort of teasing it for a while, but it came out today. It's Tuesday, March 29th, as we're doing this. You sort of really announced it today. I want to, well, I guess, let me ask this, because you just have great answers no matter what the question is. So I'm going to give you this broad answer or a broad question, and I'm going to ultimately love your answer, I'm sure. Like, what is your creative process? You mentioned the Sotheby sale, for example. You're like, I've got this Sotheby sale. What am I going to do? Or for this FewoWorld, like, how do you begin an art project?
I feel like I'm not the kind of, like, I draw a lot. I'm really bad at sketching, and I'm really bad at making prototypes. Like, I feel like I'd rather just smush everything into one and make, like, an ultra cool thing than, like, 5 okay things. So basically what I do is I just sketch, and maybe I don't even know what I'm feeling, because I'm not good at articulating my feelings in words. So it's not like I can, like, write, like, I'm sad, or, like, I want the piece. Like, I don't know how you think. I don't know, like, in your brain when you're thinking, is it words or is it, like, visual? Like,
if you're not on YouTube and can't see my face, he's just blown my brain.
Like, you thinking right now, what is...
I have to close my eyes. Okay.
Is it words?
I think it's words. It's like abstractions, you know? Tell me what you think.
Well, what I think, it's like fuzzy, like blackness.
Uh-huh.
And then sometimes there's words. But sometimes it's like a color, like red or like magenta, gradient with green. And I don't know what that means. So, like, it's like trying to unravel that and be like, well, what word is that? And it'll be like, happy, okay. But why? And then it's like, but like, that's me breaking it down really slow. It's happening like really fast, basically at once.
So you're kind of observing your own process of thought to figure out the feeling, and then abstracting it back into art. It sort of seems like that. Like, it starts sort of as an abstraction that you, in very quick order, turn into a feeling, which you then, in very quick order, turn into something on a page.
That's literally, like, articulated so well. Yes, exactly that.
That's amazing. Okay. Next question about your process. So I'm actually have been reading a book, shout out to my friend Danny Green, who lent this to me, called The War of Art. And it's obviously a spin on the art war. Have you read it?
Oh my God. The War of Art, when he talks about the muses and how you have to, like, oh my God. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield is my favorite book ever.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm reading it now. I love it. I was so excited that I was going to get to interview you, like, sort of after finding this book, because, well, now you know what it is. So I would love, maybe we should give folks, do you want to give folks the like TLDR on this book, or do you want me to do it?
I don't even know how to, can you do it? Because you probably say it better.
Sure. No. So I'll TLDR this. Basically, it's a book by Stephen Pressfield, right? Who's a writer. And it's a very short, interestingly written book that is sort of a self-help book, but it's not written like a self-help book. It's to describe the process of being a creative. And what he does is he personifies this idea of something like resistance. And if you're creative, even if you're not, basically resistance is sort of everything that causes you to want to procrastinate, that causes you to not want to do a thing. And instead of making that something that I think we all feel is like a flaw in ourselves, he takes it out of the individual and is like, there's this thing called resistance that anytime you're doing something creative or doing something hard or whatever, you're going to feel, and you're going to have the desire to, like, avoid the work. And that desire to avoid the work is this thing, resistance. And then it's basically a book about kind of overcoming that resistance. And then there's the muse, which FEWOCiOUS I want you to talk about, but this idea that if you just show up to do the work, muses and sort of inspiration arises. And again, it takes it outside of you. So it takes it outside of, like, I'm personally responsible for being inspired by something amazing, and makes it much more about the act of just doing the craft. I think that was a very long description. So we may have been better off with you doing it. But it's an amazing book. So the question I was initially going to have, but I'd love for you to riff off this in any way, is how much are you inspiration driven, and how much are you every day I show up and do the work because that's the job? Like, where do you fall in that spectrum?
It's really funny that you bring up that book because I feel like that book like trained me. Like I would read that book and then reread it and just like highlight parts I like and use it as like a rule book kind of as like a 13-year-old. So I think that kind of formed how I am. Obviously inspiration is real. Like random things do pop up, but they can't pop up unless you show up every day and maybe you think you're making like nonsense or it's boring or not perfect, but you working every day, it coagulates and combines and makes this big ball of inspiration, and then one day it just kind of comes at you and you're like, oh yeah, this was in front of me the whole time. I just wasn't ready yet to put that piece in. So both.
So and to give folks a little more context, right? The sort of thesis of this book is like the true professional, the true artist, and professional doesn't have to mean you're necessarily making money at it. It means you treat this seriously, you take your craft seriously, is that every day you show up. Sometimes there will be inspiration that sparks something and sometimes there won't. And it doesn't matter. You just keep showing up. You just keep overcoming resistance essentially. And, but just doing the work each day. And what's so important to me about hearing you say you love this book and that it has inspired your work is you, I think, come across as somebody who's just like, and I think this is probably true to some extent, right? But like boundlessly creative, like you just are able to make it happen and it's stress-free and you just like produce this incredible art. And the fact that you like that book tells me like you are also a mere mortal who struggle at time and who hit roadblocks and who want to tear your hair out and like, and just day after day show up to do the craft and do the work. And that's so interesting because I think it's so important for people who want to do creative work, but who doubt themselves to realize like, even you are taking this like a craft and every day showing up, whether the inspiration is there or not.
Oh, absolutely. I feel with creativity, there's always a tidbit somewhere. Like you really have to take every idea and just dissect it completely and just take what you like and then move on and then try to build something else with it or try to keep building on that. And I think doing that over and over and over makes you faster, which makes you like, I don't know, like people would say like better or whatever because you're making better things more consistently. But I don't know. That book is awesome. That's so cool you brought that up. No one ever talks about that book.
So good. Do you have a prime way like you procrastinate, like a prime way resistance shows up in your life where when you really should be working on something, it's like Twitter. Twitter's just there being like, come play with me.
Oh my gosh. You know what the worst resistance is? Is resistance that makes you think you're working really hard. Like I'll be like sketching a lot or doing a lot of research. I'm like, oh, I need to do so much research for this project, or I need to do tons of sketches to make it perfect. But it's really because I'm scared to fail and continue the next step.
Oh, that's my big resistance. Brilliant. Okay, here's the part of the war of art, right? That I found so helpful, and it's speaking to exactly that point, which was, he says, resistance will show up the fiercest like right before you get over the finish line. It's sort of like it's always darkest before the dawn. Yeah. And there's a couple projects that I have in my life that like I was sort of at that point of like almost wanting to give up on them. And reading that, I was able to reframe the wanting to give up feeling. Instead of it being like, this is too hard or something, I was able to reframe that as that's how close I am, right? Like I'm so close to the finish line. That's why this feeling is showing up for me. I have to keep going because it's actually just resistance at its fiercest because like I'm actually really close to cracking this case. And it's sort of it's like, true. To your point, it's like just push forward when you're distracting yourself with all other like, gobbledygook that seems really valuable, but it's like, you're not, maybe that wasn't as related to what you just said
and
as
like
I thought it was.
In my brain, I'll like try to be like, oh, but like it's better to spend more time making the perfect sketch or idea than wasting time executing it. But then I'm just wasting time no matter what when like I would have saved time if I just finished it, if that makes sense.
Totally. So you mentioned clothes earlier as I think in the context of like maybe being a fashion designer sort of a context. And I promise the next question I ask is going to be about FewoWorld because I'm so excited to really dive into what this is. you've pretty strongly alluded that there's probably a merchandise component. When did your interest in merging your art on the page with like clothing design, where did that start, or what age do you remember finding that concept interesting?
I liked clothing before I liked art. Like,
wow.
When I was like 2 years old, I'd go to Walmart and see light up Spider-Man shoes.
You remember being 2 years old?
Well, like whatever, the youngest age
okay.
Where I saw Spider-Man light up shoes. That might sound silly, but like I thought that was cool. And I didn't realize it, like, not that light up Spider-Man shoes are art, but like the
I don't know, Spider-Man's art. I think there's a case to be made there.
That shoes, okay, Spider-Man is art. It's just like, okay, light up Spider-Man shoes.
We'll go with it.
I didn't realize it was like it was art. I just thought it was a cool thing I can wear and flex on my friends in kindergarten. But that was like the first interest in growing up. It's like seeing what the other kids are wearing. I thought clothes were cool, but I couldn't. At first it was cool because other kids were saying it's cool, but then I'm like, oh, it's because that shirt is red with orange. That's why I think it's cool. Not because everyone else is saying it's cool. And then, but that was inaccessible. I don't know how to make a shirt, but I can draw a shirt with the design on it, and then that looks weird by itself. So I'll draw a character wearing that shirt with the design on it, and then it evolved into my own characters with feelings. So it's like first clothing and then drawing, and then realizing, oh, I can combine the two. And then I'm just gonna draw on like a Hanes t-shirt that like my grandma had with Sharpie, and then give it to one of my friends, and now they're wearing it at school, and that's crazy. So that's where that started.
So it was young because, you know, and then you had the Artifact collab. Mm-hmm. Was that your first foray into, call it quote unquote, like professionally designing for clothing / you know, call it streetwear?
My first, I don't know how to say that word.
Foray?
Yeah.
Your first toe dip into that pond?
Yes. My first toe dip would be like, I would sell commissions or make commission, whatever, for $5. And I would save enough to get shirts screen printed. And then I would sell those shirts that were screen printed, and I would sell them for like $18. When I should have sold them for more, but I was like, I refuse to sell for more. And so I barely made any money. And then I would sell that to make hoodies. And then I would sell that to make to buy paint, to make a painting, because paint is expensive. So that was my first toe dip, but like big scale, major, whoa, was Artifact for sure.
Yeah. Okay. It's time. I want to talk about your latest announcement, which is the launch of FewoWorld. And I want to start with tell me what this is. And I can also tell you what I've learned, I believe, about what this is. But you tell us.
FewoWorld, FewoWorld is my life. Like it's, I don't even know. Like, it's so hard to put into words. It's just everything that I've ever wanted. Brain. Yeah.
It's your magenta black fuzz that gets turned into a feeling that gets turned into art.
Honestly, like, it's different than my personal paintings because I feel like personal paintings are more so like encapsulated moments of my life at that time. But like FewoWorld, I view it as just like a vibe, like just going for it and being like, oh, let's do clothes. Oh, obviously the clothing line will have an articulated storyline and stuff, but like, what can clothes be? I don't know. Growing up, there was so many things that I didn't understand why people didn't make it this way. So it's my turn. I want to make it my way. I would watch shows and they would change my life. And I'd be like, maybe one day I could do that, but that's not accessible. But with
What's
Web3,
a show that changed your life?
I mean, I was thinking more so movies like WALL-E. Okay. And like Up, like that made me cry so bad. What? Or like Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse is so good. And I want to make something that makes some other little kid look at it and be like, wow, I feel empowered to go create. And I think with Web3, seeing like working with the Artifact guys, they were the first time I saw people feel empowered to like to just do it on their own. They're like, why do we need someone else? Let's just make it ourselves. You want to come with? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll come with. And I feel like working with them kind of trained me and taught me so much about, oh, I don't need to just make paintings. Like, I love making paintings, but also I'm allowed to go make clothing. I'm allowed to go talk about my characters in other ways and express them in further ways. It's art. And art, I don't want to stick to one medium. I want to do everything. So that's FewoWorld.
When did you first start using the term FewoWorld? Because I'm using it to describe this sort of upcoming drop, but I may be erroneously doing so. Is FewoWorld a term you've been using for a long time, and it's sort of to describe your ecosystem?
I'd say, yeah. Like, the first time FewoWorld was ever brought up was the artifact drop.
Okay.
And then after that, it was just thinking on how can this world be expanded. I am so like hungry to explore the world more because I was trapped in this abusive household for so long. I'm free now. Let's explore everything. And here we are now, exploring it.
Living a bankless life requires taking control over your own private keys. And that's why so many in the Bankless Nation already have their Ledger hardware wallet. And brand new to the Ledger lineup of hardware wallets is the Ledger Nano S Plus, a huge upgrade to the world's most popular hardware wallet. With more memory and a larger screen, the Nano S Plus makes it easy to navigate and verify your transactions. And the paired Ledger Live desktop app gives you increased transparency as to what is about to happen with your NFT. What you see is what you sign. The Nano S Plus gives you the smoothest possible user experience while you're doing all of your crypto things. So go to the Ledger website to check out the features of the new Ledger Nano S Plus and join the waitlist to get yours. And don't forget about the Crypto Life card, also powered by Ledger. The CL card is a crypto debit card that hooks right into the Ledger Live app, right next to all the DeFi apps and services that you're already used to doing, like swapping tokens and staking. So if you don't have a Ledger hardware wallet, go to ledger.com, grab a Ledger, and take control over your crypto. If you're starting on your NFT journey, you need MetaMask. This is your tool to unlock the world of DeFi and NFTs without giving up custody over your private keys. MetaMask is both a secure in-browser wallet and also a secure bridge for your hardware wallet so that you can connect to any Web3 enabled website. You can now trade tokens with any DEX or aggregator. MetaMask Swap gathers real-time pricing information across the DeFi exchange ecosystem, allowing you to select your best price while getting all of the MetaMask benefits of self-custody, lower gas costs, and increased transaction success rates. MetaMask also has a fantastic mobile wallet, which I use while I'm out and about. And I use it to collect POAPs, NFTs, and use it for all my DeFi things while I'm away from home. If you haven't downloaded MetaMask, you gotta try it out. Download MetaMask for desktop and mobile at metamask.io, or load up your Ledger, Trezor, Keystone, or Lattice hardware wallets so that they too can get into Web3.
So what you've announced thus far in terms of this latest iteration of all this, I think there's like a couple components of this. From what I glean, there's something called paint, there's canvas, there's FEWOs, and then there's like FEWO wearables that are coming, which of course ties into everything we've just been talking about. Do I have that right? Am I missing anything that's a part of this latest drop of FewoWorld?
I mean, FewoWorld? FewoWorld is starting with paint, yes. And paint is the building block to everything else. And everything else is kind of undetermined, more so from a standpoint of like, well, I'm learning. What if I learn more and then I can make it better? And yeah, but that's pretty much everything, like paint, canvas, FEWOs, fashion.
So we'll get into each of those. I'll ask this also stage setting question. And this is a loaded question. Is FewoWorld a metaverse?
I don't know if I'm allowed to answer that.
It feels like that's the obvious thing, but when you didn't start off with FewoWorld's a metaverse, I was like, well, I guess I'll ask the obvious question. It's got the name world in it.
My goal is yes. That's what I'm working towards. That's why it's paint is building block, because we need to like get there first.
Did you have opinions on the Bored Ape metaverse and ApeCoin launch and all of that happened recently?
I mean, I think what they're doing is cool. I think it's really cool just to see the community grow and explore, and I'm just excited to see like that's one take on like a path to go, and it's just like, oh, what else is there?
The reason I ask is because that drop and then others that other things that have been happening, Meta Angels launched their own Meta Angel marketplace, if you're familiar with that project. And I made, I think, a comment in an earlier podcast episode about this, but it's relevant here, which is like, I love seeing this, I think, artists and projects just like being empowered, And it was like, okay, yeah, we have the Sandbox, we have Decentraland, and there's no knock on them, but like the reason we're all here is your art, Fewo. The reason we're all here is Bored Apes. Like right now, the reason this ecosystem exists are these projects and these artists. So it actually makes a lot more sense for you to be like, you're here because you like the vibe my art gives you. Like, cool, I'm the metaverse now, as opposed to these sort of just like plots of land where maybe something is built. And again, it's not a knock on them. And I think there's plenty of room for lots of metaverses, but I love that concept. And it was sort of a click moment for me that makes all the sense in the world of like, we're here for you. Like you should go make the marketplace and the metaverse.
I think it's fun to see creatives explore further ways to express themselves in ways that have literally just never been done before at all. Like, I would say, like, the closest thing is, like, a store in real life. And that's, like, not even... not even. It's just... What do you mean everyone's making their own metaverse? That's just such a... If you said that to someone from the 1700s, they would explode.
Yeah. Like, that's a nonsensical word, you crazy person. Like, here's an asylum. Like, so sad. I'm just forward thinking. Which sums up, I think, a lot of history. Okay, so let's get into these components that you've mentioned so far, and then we'll get into maybe what this looks like in 6 months, 1 year, 20 years. I'll just overwhelm you with those questions. So Paint, you said, is the building block. And what's been announced so far is that Paint is going to be available to purchase on Nifty Gateway. Yes. Starting, I believe, April 3rd.
April 2nd is pre-sale.
April 2nd. Okay, pre-sale being for FEWO piece holders if you own some of your existing work.
Yeah, if you hold a FEWO, you can get into pre-sale, but April 3rd is like public sale.
Okay, so you basically have 24 hours to mint Paint. And you can mint as much paint as you want in that time. And mint are ERC721, unique NFTs. Yes. And it sounds like, are they generative?
Yes, they are generative.
They are generative, and they each contain within them, like, we're sort of using Paint in two ways here, I think, right? There's Paint as sort of the NFT, but then as part of the traits of that NFT, there will be a certain amount of quote unquote paint that each NFT is ascribed. Is that true? It's like I could get one paint that has more paint than the paint your paint has.
Yeah, I know it sounds kind of confusing, but like, so that's right. So my paint drop, everyone gets a paint drop, but it's like how much paint is in your paint drop. My paint drop might have 1 paint in it, but yours might have like 200 paint in your paint drop.
So on a note on the paint drop front, and this will be a way to encourage folks to go to the website, which we'll link to below. I wanted to know, because I am obsessed on your website right now, FewoWorld.io. It's a scroll down site, and it just sort of scrolls endlessly. And on the paint part of the website, it says paint is the building block to all life in FewoWorld, and the paint turns into FW, and then it goes back to paint. Like, I just loved your website, and I was like, how much of this is like, do you creative direct and control all of this, or are you like, I have this? I'm sure you have a talented team, regardless, but like, how involved in the nitty gritty are you of like what this website looks and feels like?
Everything.
There was you're so brilliant. Truly.
Every paint drop, I sat with my 3D artist Logan. We sat together and we made paint from scratch together. How the hue, the way the light comes through the paint, I was there and helped make sure it looked how I wanted it to look. The website, literally, like, until today when we opened the website, it's like, oh, let's change this button. Oh, I need to draw the button. Okay, here. Yeah. So it's like me drawing and sending it to Aaron, the web designer, as he's coding it.
The startup life. Well, everyone should go and check it out. I think the website is beautifully done, and the little details are there, and that's why I wanted to ask that question, because it has your fingerprints obviously all over it. It's literally it's your brain, but I'm not surprised to hear you're that deeply involved. Okay, so that's paint, and so everybody you can buy a paint drop. I think if you're not on the pre-sale list, it's $1,000, which was also interesting if you list it in USD. And then it'll be that'll get you a paint drop, and you'll have a certain amount of paint in there. Can you explain to folks what we can do with paint?
I don't know how much I'm allowed.
Do more than you think. No, it's good for the podcast.
Paint. Gotta be very careful with my words here. I would say that with paint, it will give you access. Okay.
I think I read that you can buy canvas and FEWOs.
If you have paint, you get gifted canvas, and depending on what kind of paint, you get a trophy, and you get like maybe you get a custom FEWO when we do FEWO. So it's like I can't even say that. You get a custom FEWO.
Okay.
And basically paint acts like power-ups for your FEWOs, and it gives you access to unlock particular things that we cannot reveal yet.
Okay. And FEWOs are the collectible draw. It's a PFP. It's your sort of, collectible identity NFT.
I view it as an enhanced version of that.
Okay. I know. I was almost hesitant to use the term PFP because I feel like it can sound, people have feelings around that term. It's become a loaded term, but the point is it's a collectible. It's an avatar style. I don't know if it's an actual avatar, but it's something somebody might make as their profile picture on Twitter. Is that fair? And is it a 10,000 collection?
I can't reveal that.
Okay. So we're starting with paint, but there's clearly that will be evolving into meaning other things that you'll be able to unlock as holders of paint.
Yeah, the way I view paint is like the first step that if you have it, it will open so many doors.
It unlocks the rest of this universe.
Yeah.
One might say unlocks the rest of this metaverse. And so, yes, and the clear implication is encouraging folks to buy up paint. There's something, this is also on the Nifty website, where at the end of this paint drop, which again will last for 24 hours, there's a leaderboard, and the top 50 people who have the most paint will be rewarded and will get additional NFTs and sort of parts of your ecosystem. So the encouragement there is buy up a lot of paint. You're going to want to use this as unlocks in FewoWorld. Some of you will be explicitly rewarded for it, but in general, it's probably good to have a lot of paint if you like Fewo and want to be a part of this.
Yeah, like it's just a reward of like, if you believe in it that much that you're going to spend extra, then heck yeah, like here, you get a custom Fewo, here's a trophy, like thank you so much. But the general like idea is like, hey everyone, we are about to make something really crazy, and there's no roadmap. There is a crazy vision behind it, and we're going for it. But like with paint, this is the first step. And if you happen to buy a lot, then thank you so much. Like here's a reward for that,
So let's talk about your future vision here. I understand. I'm seeing you squirm anticipatorily, potentially. You mentioned movies that inspired you. In the grand vision here, is that a place where you'd like to play, create your own characters, Pixar style, have shows, movies? Is that of interest?
I mean, Fewos are the little inhabitants in the FewoWorld, so I imagine a world in the future where there's episodes or something. Just what is FewoWorld? Of course, we see the characters, but like, how do they interact in the world? What are the stories behind? Why are they blue with polka dots? What does that mean? What does it all mean? So that's how I view episodes or things in the future.
And I'm sure you're obviously very hands-on with this story, but do you have let me ask this, what's your team like right now in terms of?
My team right now is very small, but we're mighty.
I'm trying to look on the website right now because I know you had sort of a list of folks. Okay, and so one of the things you hear right now is like, I think Bored Ape made this point when they launched their metaverse, like, again, it feels like I keep digging the sandbox, but like not intentionally, but hey, you show up and it's just like this empty space right now, and maybe there's a couple games, but you just like kind of wander endlessly, and there's sort of, it's unclear like what you're supposed to be doing or feeling.
Mm-hmm.
What are you hoping people feel in FewoWorld, or if this were a metaverse, like, and people were entering this, what would you want to be there?
I mean, I would want there to be there the heart and the soul and the understanding that this is a beautiful art project that all came together. And I mean, the tech is the paint. It's the coding behind all the beautiful things that you're seeing is like the paintbrush, the paint strokes of all these beautiful creations coming together. And I'm seeing the characters interacting with each other. You're seeing the nuances and emotion of how it's not just happy, it's not just sad, it's happy but a little bit confused and feeling a tad bit sad because of this thing that happened last week or whatever. I think just seeing the characters for what they are and seeing all the complexities of the world is not simple. Our world is crazy, and I think FewoWorld should be crazy. That's what I imagine.
When you think about the metaverse, let's call it as a concept broadly, forget FewoWorld specifically, because I know it's hard to talk about specifics there when there's so much you want to be careful about saying. Like, what excites you about it? I know you've talked about wanting to build robots in the future. Like, you love tech. You obviously are, love art. What excites you the most about the idea of the metaverse?
I think just finding new ways to express yourself and interpret others' expressions. Like, the fact that I can go in the metaverse and just be like, literally look like a Fewo is so cool. And then you'll talk to me and maybe not know what I look like, but I look like a Fewo. How does that change our conversation? I don't know, but that's so cool. Or just the concept of like expression. I think that's really beautiful, and that there's new art that's going to be made that has never existed before. I love that.
When I look at like your past work, you were doing art drops. You started with art drops. I think, it was on Super Rare, was really where you started in NFTs, right?
Yes.
Had every week you were minting a piece of work on Super Rare, and eventually you listed one and it sold, and here we are today.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of a phase where it was, clear individual works of art. And then I look at your Sotheby's drop, for example, which I want to actually ask you a couple questions about that. And that was when I first heard of you. I think there are probably a lot of people who first heard about you from the Sotheby's drop. You were the youngest person to ever have a Sotheby's, auction, which is
That's
incredible.
Crazy. What?
Amazing. And then you had this collaboration with Artifact, and these are very sort of you call it one-off, like you do it and it's done and it's wrapped and it's closed. Mm-hmm. Are you entering a phase now where with what you're building, it's going to all be a little bit more like, do you expect the next 5 years to be building around this sort of concept of FewoWorld in a way that's one thing leading to the next and building on almost like one central concept?
Honestly, I think more than 5 years. I'm like ready.
Okay.
Like, this is my life. Like, I'm trying to build something like not even Disney, like just something new. Like, I don't know. Like, the farthest art can go. I want to push it and see where I end up.
Can you give us a glimpse into anything? You talked about the tech as the paintbrush, like an area where tech and art are pushing the boundaries with something you're doing right now that you feel like you can share?
I mean, the paint drops themselves. The fact that there was the concept of this building block, but I did not want all of them to look the same. The paint drop NFTs animate and turn into FW for FewoWorld and then turn back into a paint drop. But literally every animation for every paint drop is slightly different. They warble a different way. One red will not be the same red as another red. Like, literally no paint is the same. Even the line work paints where you think like, no way, how can it look cohesive and all of them be different? They're all different. And I think the fact that I had a vision, an idea, and that we can extend it infinitely, and I get surprised by these ideas, and it's like we built a little brain in the computer to make art like me, is crazy.
Yeah, and that the generative piece you're describing, like basically it's generative, so you have an algorithm that's outputting each individual piece based on the inputs that you gave it of like, this is how I make art and how I like things to look.
Yeah, like, it's basically about setting guidelines for it to go as crazy as it wants, and then it just looks crazy. And I find that to be so fascinating that I can only do so much with these two hands in my brain. But if I can think with someone about how to articulate the right rules and guidelines to infinitely extend, that's beautiful. What?
For the Sotheby's drop, I'm curious how that came together. Was that something you had to apply for and seek out, and then you find out you get accepted? Did they approach you? How did the Sotheby's auction happen?
I literally think one day they just reached out to us. Oh, no, that's not what happened. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was so wrong. My friend Ryan, thank you X. He is an amazing painter and curator in the space and just amazing soul. And one day he called me and he's like, dude, I'm curating a Sotheby sale. Do you want to be in it? It's about showcasing painters or any physical art and connecting it with Web3 and showing the traditional art world that they don't have to be so separate. It's like a bridging the gap. And I was like, yeah, that's crazy. What? Like, I don't even know how you got that opportunity, but yeah, I'm in. Like, come on, let's do it. And he was like, cool, you're in. Do whatever you want. Physical, NFT, that's it. Bye. I'll see you in London. And then I had a couple months to just think of, well, the theme of the whole sale is, well, for us, I felt like the mission, there wasn't like a set theme, but like I felt like the mission at hand was, how can we get this other part of the world to understand our part in a very artful way? And I made a big sculpture. I don't know how to sculpt. I'm a painter, but I felt like the gap is so large that I needed to make a 7-foot tall glass blue sculpture to like make people look and see it.
Wait. Hold on. Are you telling me you got invited to do a Sotheby's auction? And you, were you 18 at the time?
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old artist who could do like digital art and painting and like fully in that realm, we're like, you know what? As the youngest person ever to do a Sotheby's auction, I'm going to do a thing I've literally never done before and do a glass sculpture as part of this drop.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Did you watch YouTube videos? Like, how did you figure out how to do that?
Well, luckily I didn't do it on my own. Me and my team, we found these amazing people in New York. Shout out to Kevin, this guy named Kevin. Helped me.
Shout out Kevin.
Yeah, he helped me make the entire thing. Kevin and Brian, literally just like, we sat and they're like, okay, like, how do we make this work? And I had this sketch of my character, Mr. Misunderstood. It's this blue guy with a curly Q that has a big red bow tie. He's just like this sad little guy. And I'm like, well, here's a sketch I have, but I don't want him to be small. That would be weird if it was just a small sculpture. Like, gotta go big or go home. And then we kind of kept scaling him until it like got to the point where it was like, if we make him any taller, he won't fit in a room. And also, how are we going to ship this overseas to London? So that's kind of how that happened.
It's amazing. And then have you also done work with Christie's? Is that when you did This Is My Life and Hello, I'm Victor and that work? Or was that also with Sotheby's? Okay, that was Christie's.
That was Christie's.
And how did Christie's come about?
Christie's came about...
Once you've had Sotheby's, it's all, you know, they all just come flocking?
Christie's was before Sotheby's. It was... Oh, here's what happened. I was talking to my manager, Andrew, and we were just chatting about life, vibing around, and Andrew was like, hey, this was right after the Beeple sale. And Andrew was like, hey, so Beeple just had this sale at Christie's. I think it's really cool that, you know, he's shown the traditional art world what NFTs are. Have you ever talked to Christie's? Like, you ever reached out to them? And I'm like, reached out to them? How am I going to reach out to Christie's? What are you talking about? And he's like, you know, just email them. And I'm like, I don't have that access. What do you mean email them? He's like, dude, it's literally on their website.
Just email them.
Yeah. So he literally just emailed, like, the same email on the Christie's website. He just emailed it and was like, hey guys, this is Victor. Let's do a drop. And they saw the email and they're like, oh snap, we were about to email you. Let's do it. And then that's how it happened.
Okay, so and that's actually where I first learned about you was Christie's. I was conflating the different drops. So Christie's came before Sotheby's, and I think that's what a lot of people learned about you is the hello, I'm Victor, and this is my life. And were there 4 pieces, each representing a year in your life?
Was there 5? Hold on, I gotta count. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, 5 pieces.
5 pieces, okay. And again, I think people are maybe familiar with this, but you basically did each piece represented an age, when you were 14, then 15, then 16, and, through 19, the emotion, there was like a sentence for each of them that sort of captured where you were at that point in your life. So Christie responds as like, we want to do a drop with you. How do you go about determining what you're going to make for your first like major auction house show?
Well, it was really hard because Christie says yes. You don't think Christie's going to say yes. So you're just like, I didn't think I'd get this far. And then you're in your bedroom.
Now I got to do an auction. Now I got to make some art. Huh?
And then you're in your bedroom and I'm on the phone with my manager and he's like, I was on your Instagram and I noticed that your old art says Victoria and not Victor. And I was like, oh, snap, we're about to have this conversation right now.
It's now? Okay.
And I was like, yeah. And he was like, do you want to talk about that? Like, at Christie's? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I do. Like, yeah, let's talk. Like, why not? Like, this is something I've had to deal with my whole life. Yes, let's talk about it. And then we got on a call with Noah Davis at Christie's. And it was just like, hey, man, like, I'm trans, by the way, and I've had to deal with this my whole life. I want to make a whole collection about it, and I don't want to go lightly on it either. Like, I want to talk about, like, the times I've thought about death and where I hated myself and my family was mean to me, and, like, I saw moments in history where just people like me are not accepted, and still today, still not really accepted as much. And I was worried. I'm like, oh my God, am I about to lose like this Christie's opportunity? I don't know. And he was like, yeah, let's talk about it. Like, of course, why not? And they both pushed me to be myself to the fullest and go as deep as I wanted to go. So that was the goal. We set a timeline for Pride in June and I just got to painting.
How amazing to go from a childhood where you felt like not only could you not be yourself, you were ridiculed. You had to, you had to so hide yourself because you were so ridiculed for, it seems like, anything having to do with who you are, being an artist, your identity, everything, to a place where you have people around you who are like starting that conversation and who are the ones like pushing you into being more truly yourself. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to have people around me that are like, yeah, be you to the fullest. And if they don't accept that, then they're whack.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, I've always thought I had to like appease people and like hide myself. But it's cool to just fully be on you. That's cool. That's awesome. I love it.
Feels good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. We're just about at time here, but I want to, as we're sort of on the personal questions again, I know we alluded this to a little bit earlier, but obviously you're in this abusive household. You start discovering NFTs. You sell your first NFT at 17.
Yeah.
I think it was like a couple weeks before the pandemic, before lockdown. Is that right?
Yes.
So you're in Las Vegas. You are already in a home in which you're not happy. You're suddenly having this, you're getting money, but it's ETH.
Yeah.
lockdown happens and you can't get your ETH out because you can't open a bank account because you're underage, and you can't ask your family to help because they won't help. And now you're in lockdown, so you're stuck at home like in an abusive situation, basically counting down the months until you turn 18. Your birthday's on January 1st too, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So counting down the months to when you turn, like it's March 2020, you're counting down the months till you turn 18, January 2021. So you can actually like get this money that you're now earning.
Yeah.
That's wild. I listened to an interview you did with Gary Vee, which, by the way, I recommend folks go listen to. You guys go a little bit more in depth, I think, in the moment by moment of that time in your life. But like in some, like, what did those 7 months, whatever it is, 8 months, like feel like? You know, there's like a light at the end of the tunnel, maybe, but you're stuck at home. Like, what was that time in your life like?
Oh my gosh, I felt like I was gonna poop my pants every day. Like, it was just so stressful. Like, I like a month after my birthday, I sat in math class, like this right before the pandemic. I was sitting in math class, and I made a calendar.
This is before your birthday, when you were 17, right?
Yeah, and I made a calendar of, okay, when I turn 18, I have a year. When I turn 18, I'm going to move out. How am I going to make enough money to move out? Well, I don't know. So I made a calendar of month by month what I'm going to do to make enough money and options that I can do. Like, sell shirts. If that doesn't work, sell stickers. If that doesn't work, I don't know. Figure it out. And NFTs just came randomly, and I thought they were a scam at first. And then I realized they weren't a scam, and ETH was $200. And everyone was like, one day ETH will maybe be $1,000. I don't know, though. Don't, like, listen to me. And I was like, I don't know. That's, like, a big jump. And I didn't really understand what crypto, like, it was, like, a lot. And then, like, you know, I heard about, like, how Bitcoin, like, went down, and I was like, oh my God, I'm saving my money in ETH, and like, is it just gonna go away before I turn 18? Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't have anyone that can like turn it into dollars. But then, just as the months kept going, NFTs were growing, and people were learning who I was, and then other people were joining the space. And then it was confusing because I've only been in like weird friend groups where like no one cared about us. And it's like, what? You want to join my group? What? And then I remember Trevor Jones sold Picasso's bull for $50,000. Mm-hmm. And that was the first like art NFT that I saw everyone go, wait, what? Like, this is real? Like, it's actually going on? It's happening? And he was in the news, and the art was in the news, and that was just the first time I was like, oh my God, like, we got this. Like, let's just keep going.
Wag me.
Yeah. And then after that, like, I was just so confident. I was like, I don't care what happens. Like, I'm in forever.
Yeah. So on your birthday, January 1st, when you turned 18...
Yeah.
Like, that day, did you go get a bank account? Like, the moment is here. What did you do?
So what happened was, I had like a kid bank account because my grandpa secretly made a bank account with me because I kind of told him what was happening, but not the full truth. So I had like a kid bank account that had like a weird limit, and that if I put money in it, he could see it. So, and I was scared to make one because I don't know, I didn't understand how they worked, so I was scared to do it on my own. So basically what I did is I had the money in my kid bank account and just kept all my ETH because I believed in it, and I was like, whatever, that's fine, and had like $1,000 I saved and just like went to Seattle.
Wow, so you had $1,000 in a kid bank account because you felt like that was enough. That was your grandpa would, you could kind of justify that with your art, you know, but you couldn't justify like however many tens of thousands of dollars you had at that point. And so you're like, okay, you know, I'm selling a couple things, and it's like I've got $1,000, and then you took that money, was there like a one-way ticket to Seattle for $1,000? Like, what was that? You know, probably
it was
less
like,
than that.
Yeah, it was a one-way ticket to Seattle, but I didn't get it for the next day because my auction was a 24-hour auction. So I had to stay there, and like I didn't want to be on the airplane when it ended. And it was just this like itch in my skin of like, oh my God, I'm leaving tomorrow. Is my family gonna find out somehow? Are they gonna like check the bank account somehow? Are they gonna like know with their like parent senses? I don't know. But they never found out until an hour before I left.
Wow. So you had an auction happening, which is on your birthday, which is that was 24 hours. So you couldn't leave the day after your birthday. So you had to buy a ticket basically for January 3rd.
Yeah.
And so that left this window between like having purchased it and when you were leaving that somebody could have maybe seen. And your fear was that your parents would. What was your fear?
I literally didn't know what to expect. Yeah. I'm like, are they gonna like beat me up? Or like I'm like I was prepared to call the police. Or are they gonna try to like hold me down if I try to run away? I don't know what's gonna happen. I was like on Google being like, I can run away when I'm 18. That makes sense. I'm a legal adult. But like, and like I didn't know.
This isn't actually running away. This is just me now being a full adult human, right? Like,
yeah.
Wow. And then you ended up telling your grandfather right before you left.
Yeah.
That you were leaving.
And he thought I was joking at first. He's like, yeah, haha, me too. I'm going to Miami. And I was like, no, Grandpa, I'm serious. I'm going to Seattle. I can't go with you to the store later. And he said, well, are you sure? Like, where are you going? And I said, I can't give you my address. I don't want to tell you. I don't feel comfortable. And he said, well, when I was your age, I was too scared to travel the world, and I didn't do it, and I regret it. But my dream for you is I love you, and I want you to see the world. And if this is what it means, then go for it. And he like got my birth certificate and like gave me $200 cash. And he said, go, I'll drive you to the airport. And don't listen to anyone else. And then as we're walking out, my grandma obviously saw me with two luggages that were big, full of sketchbooks. They're heavy. Just sketchbook, no clothes, nothing. Just sketchbooks.
Just sketchbooks.
And she's like, where are you going? And I said, I'm leaving. And she said, you're not going to say bye to me? That's it? You're just leaving like that? You treat me like trash? Well, then all your stuff is trash. And she went to my room and grabbed all my stuff and was just throwing everything in trash bags, like right in front of me. And that's the last time I saw her.
Wow. We're like, we're a little over the time, but I feel like that's on the one hand, like the best ending. And of course, on the other hand, I'm like, okay, but then what happened when you got to Seattle? Where did you go in Seattle?
I met my friend Parrot through the NFT space. Just this amazing artist I found online, and his bio said Seattle, Washington. So I texted him before I moved. I said, dude, is Seattle cool? And he was like, yeah, man. And he wrote me a long novel of this neighborhood's good, this place is cool. If you need a drive from the airport, like I got you, feel free. And you hear your whole life, don't trust strangers on the internet. But I talked to him enough in the space and saw his art that I was like, I don't know, he can't be that bad of a guy. So
and you're coming from a situation where you're like, what do I have to lose, really? Like, I'm coming from a toxic situation, so I understand that.
Exactly.
And then I believe you now are based in New York. So
yes.
Not even a year later, you moved to New York, which is where I am. So at some
snap!
Point,
you gotta come paint with me.
I would love to. I mean, like, yeah, with anything. Okay, this is the actual last question. Can you explain to folks what paint parties are now that you've mentioned painting with folks? And paint party people, I think, are also involved in the FewoWorld to the extent that they get access to things.
So paint parties are just events where, like, we rent out, paint parties are just, like, big events where I rent out, like, a warehouse or just, like, a big venue, and we just fill it with canvases, and we give everyone jumpsuits so that they don't ruin their clothes, and access to all kinds of paint, spray paint, gloves to dip your hands in paint, and just like finger paint on the walls. Do whatever you want. There's no structure. There's no nothing. It's just art supplies, you get a jumpsuit, go paint. And we blast music, and it's fun because during events, like when I'm seeing my buddies that live so far, like I want us to make art together and see how each other's brains work. So that's why I decided to do paint parties, and that's what they are. Just big playgrounds of paint.
And with that, this has been a conversation with FEWOCiOUS, who, there are no words. I think you're just a remarkable person. So thank you for coming on the show. I cannot wait to see what you continue to do. I will absolutely be buying a paint drop this coming Sunday, I guess, is when it kicks off. And, you're like, I don't know. I have no sense of time anymore. I just paint and I'm up at all hours.
Yeah.
But truly, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited for folks to hear this interview and to see what you do next.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for listening.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.